Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in to this video. I'm going to demonstrate how to remove the LNA housing from a choke ring antenna and also how to install the Talisman Trimble LNA in this choke ring antenna. So first off, this is your standard Trimble choke ring antenna. The part number for this one is 29659-00. And this is the GPS only choke ring antenna. Once we upgrade with the Talisman LNA, it will change the part number to a full GNSS antenna to denote that change. So let's dive right in. You will need a set of tools in order to do this. Please see the how-to document for those specific things. But first of all, you will need a drill with a Phillips screwdriver bit, the star bit here, torque size 15. You'll also need a 5/16 wrench, a small flathead screwdriver. I like to use channel locks, and then lastly a tube or some high vacuum grease. And I'll show you what that's for later. All right, let's dive right in. First, step one, we are going to remove only the Phillips or plus sign screws. There are 6 of those. And set those screws to the side. You will reuse those screws. And now we will use the star Torx bit, and we will unscrew the one of those, ideally the one that lines up with the end connector for the GPS LMR cable. So you can see here, there's a little mark there to denote when we remove this housing that we put it back in the same place. So this marking here should line up with the end connector here. And just to note, these screws that we pulled out previously are a little longer and they go deeper, and that's what holds this housing on, whereas the star Torx bit screw is about half the length, and it is what holds on the protective dome onto the underside of the housing. So we will actually use the longer screw. The threading is exactly the same. So we'll use that longer screw to pry up the housing out of the choke ring antenna. Very slowly. And as you can see, it will start, oh, not quite yet. And as you can see, it will start to pry up and create a little area there. So at this point, we can either use our hand to wiggle that dome off. Sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. Or we can use a working glove. We can put it down here so we don't mark up the ring here, and we can use it to pry. Very carefully, not to scratch the housing. And then give it a little tug with your hand. Still a bit tight on this one. There it goes. Again, keeping these concentric rings in good condition. Okay, and here the housing just slips out at this point, and this is what it looks like inside. It should be nice and clean. There should be no debris or no precipitation in here. And this is the end connector here. So we can see that when we put the screw in, that it actually made a little mark, and that's fine. This rubber gasket here helps to keep the inside of the housing nice and dry and clean from any debris. So And we'll take that 5/16 wrench and we will undo, or we will loosen the cable here, the SMA connector from the housing here. All right, so we have removed the housing, and you will notice here's the LNA that we need to remove, the GPS only LNA, and this is the Doane Margolin element, and we'll be removing it as well from here. So we need to remove the Phillips screws from the 3 standoffs that are holding the LNA, attaching it to the element. So there's one on each side. You can set those to the side. All right, so removing those 3, we can now take the 5/16 wrench and remove the SMA connector from the inside here. You can loosen it up, and then if you can fit your fingers in there, just do a quick slide and you'll see it start to remove. Loosen there. All right. We'll set that to the side. And then I prefer to use the channel locks here to just grip these very carefully, loosen them. And you can note that the standoffs that we are removing are again a different height, a different size. The ones we're putting in are a lot shorter. So I'll just give that a quick remove. Something to note when you're removing these threads can become a bit sticky sometimes. Please be very careful, as we have seen when we're installing the other ones, that they can get cross-threaded. So make sure that you have the standoffs here comprised of a decent metal. I have seen some very soft aluminum ones get cross-threaded and stuck and actually break. So that is the next step. So we have just to install the new ones very carefully, very gently, thread those in there by hand, each of the 3 spots. You can also see that these come, oh, that one's a little sticky. So what I'll do in this situation is take the one that we removed and take that in there and just spin it through a couple times, just to ensure that the threads do not get crossed. Give a good little inspection. Very gently thread that in there. Do not force it, otherwise it will break. All right, so that's in there. Let's do the third one. All right, you can remove these 3 screws. These came with the kit from Talisman. And we'll be using these to attach the low noise amplifier, the LNA, to. So I'll set this down for just a moment. So this is the LNA from Talisman Wireless. Here is the part number 32-0605-00-TR1. The TR denotes Trimble. If you look down here at the serial number, it has part of the part number 33-0605, and then the date, I believe the series number, and then the date. So this one was made on September 2022, and it is number 37, created that day. All right, so we can pull these little red caps off. These are protecting the threads on the SMA connector here. And there is a flat side and this side that has all these 90s on it. In your kit, you will get a 90. That 90 goes on the side with all of the 90s. Makes a lot of sense. And for the other side, I have seen recently there is this S-Wave connector, and I've also seen a longer, more flexible connector. So this side will go like that. So we want to line up, there's 3 notches here to match the 3 standoff points. And we can look for that screw and that marker there, and that should line up with the mark there. So as you can see, it lines up. This is the only configuration that this will work for these 3 standoffs. If you rotate it 1 over and try to line it up, it will not line up. So in reality, there's only one way to get the LNA here attached. So also, if you set this down, we want to be very careful to not damage or scratch this gray dome here, protective dome. So, because if there are any breaks, water can get inside. If there are any cracks or fractures, water can get inside and damage the dome margolin element. All right, so let's use the S-Wave connector on this one here. We want to also be careful that we only partially thread this on. We can always tighten it after, once it's in place. But we just kind of rest that there. We can line it up here. And just to get a couple threads to line it up. All right, and so you can see it's a little loose, and we might have to push down a little bit just to get it there. And again, we have that play because we did not completely tighten that S-Wave connector on the inside. All right, so I'm going to use this little foam portion here. Set this to the side. I'll use this foam to protect the dome here and to give me a somewhat flat surface to install those 3 screws. Again, being careful not to cross thread and hand tight, being very gentle. And now we can go back and tighten the S-Wave connector on the inside. And with these S-Wave connectors and SMA connectors, we do not need to torque these. A simple hand tight will do just fine. All right, so that has been tightened. And now we can take a moment to inspect and make sure that everything is in the right place and that it looks clean, and also take a moment to inspect the O-ring that is here. We don't want any signs of water that has come through, any precipitate marks. I've seen a lot of white marks here and there. We want to make sure that there are no cracks in this O-ring. So we can take this off very gently. You can use your flathead screwdriver to kind of pry this off just a little bit to fully inspect the O-ring. Very gently, just run it over your fingers, looking for cracks or breaks. We do have replacement O-rings, and I will list the part number in the how-to document. And this is also where we use the high vacuum grease. And with this, you just need a smidge, just a little dab. You can put it on your finger. And what I like to do is just rub it in between my thumb and forefinger, just a couple times. We don't want to stretch the O-ring. We don't want to apply too much pressure, but we want to make sure that that is hydrated and that it will create a good seal. So we can just slide that over. And we want this to be a little tight when we put it back into place. There we go. And I'll use the excess on my finger just to go around a couple times. There we go. All right, so now we have installed our LNA onto the element. We've tightened the inside connectors. Now we can go to the SMA connector that connects to the GPS cable, and we connect that here. And as you can see, we need to tighten both here and here. Just hand tight. And then we need to also line up to make sure that our marked point here is going in at the same point we removed it. Okay, give a little extra hand tight. And we also, prior to installing this into the housing, we want to make sure that we note the serial number for future. If there are any recalls or any issues with the LNA element, I like to mark the serial number and on the LNA and also on the choke ring where it was installed, and keep that in our records. So line that up with the holes, the screw holes here, and get that a little bit snug. We will have to remove this Phillips screw here prior to pushing down completely. So we'll do that really quick. There we go. And now again, just line up those holes and push evenly, very gently, until it sinks in. Okay, give a nice feel to make sure that it is sealed. And now we can use the screws that we took out at the beginning of the video to put the housing, to secure the housing back in. It's also important to note your screwdriver settings if you're using a screwdriver, that we don't over torque these and that the screw head breaks off. I have had that happen in the past. It's easy to do, to fix. You remove it and then push out. You can use a number of ways to remove that screw, but you can push from the other side as well. So. Excellent. And then replace that Torx. There we go, and your LNA has been swapped, and your choke ring antenna is now GPS, or will see all full GNSS signals. There we go. Thank you for watching, and make sure to download the how-to document associated with this so you can see all the steps for removing the LNA housing from the choke ring, and also how to install the Talisman Trimble LNA in this choke ring.